XML from my bedroom. Yes, I do have sheets over my windows. They're not sheets, they're, I think they're just big white and blue blankets. It's so bright, and my house is under construction, so there's no need to like put up curtains really or anything, so I kind of just tied up some blankets, but that was in winter. Now that summer's here, I don't know, I think it's just gonna make it hotter. But anyway, this subject I wanted to take on, I was just talking to a friend of mine, my dance teacher. We're not allowed to fraternize, so although he's dear to my heart, I think that the word friend is not allowed. It's a weird thing. But anyway, that's a different subject that I find to be very funny. But anyway, so I was talking to him. He's recently had a really bad experience with some mental health issues, but I will allow him to handle how he tells the world his own story. But I texted him something. He posts, if you want to follow him, here's the @ he posts a lot of Buddhist Buddhist quotes and stuff like that. So I'm always commenting my thoughts on those. If any of you know me, you know I am not anti-religious or really sacrilegious. I just don't have, so I was raised in Catholicism, and just a little of my background, I was raised in Catholicism, and my dad took me to the Native Americans to learn how to dance and the ceremonies and the rituals, and learn a lot about Native American Indians. And then he made me read books on the Aztecs and the language and the Aztec culture that we've lost a lot of, and their religion, worshiping the sun and all of this stuff. So there's a lot of different things. And then as I grew older, I found out that my mom does not go to church, but she said that she's Christian. And I didn't find that out until I was like 37, 38. I was like, are you serious? So yeah, and a lot of my family is Christian and Catholic. So there's just so many different religions, and my brother grew up with his friends. He didn't go to church, but he grew up with friends who are Jewish. So we have a lot of Jewish friends, and that's who we spend the holidays with. So it's really interesting. We have an interesting life. But yeah, so I didn't really pick and choose. I do believe in like karma and things like that. And my father was martial artist, so he made me read Taoism books. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Taoism. And I did read up on Buddha a little bit. And I just found that with all the religions, there's something that I disagree with. There's something that I'm not really sure is 100%. Or my idea about what religion should be is something that brings people together and doesn't separate. So there's a lot of aspects of Catholicism that separates people from it and the people in it. And so there's a lot of it that I disagree with, not to mention the molestations and the rapes within the community. So anyway, that's my background. A lot of different religions. I kind of just came up with my own belief system. And so I talked to him about it sometime, or I just text him. He doesn't really talk back to me. He's not really supposed to, I guess. But so he posted something that Buddha said, right? And it was about happiness. So my idea is this, and my mother will argue with me that it wasn't really, losing my chin here, it wasn't really appropriate to talk to him about this because of his current situation. Well, I don't really hold back a lot. I don't really have like a filter. I just say what's on my mind, and I allow for people to have a conversation with me based on different thoughts and ideas. Look, I'm not going to put you down because of the way that you think, and I don't expect you to do that to me either. So yeah, so here's what the video is about. It's just my thoughts, okay, on depression, sadness versus happiness. It has always been my thought that happiness is a choice, okay? And not to say that sadness, that you are choosing to be sad or choosing not to be happy, people with depression and such. It's just my thought that choice to be happy. Happiness is a choice. But sadness can be very overwhelming. And the thing about that is that the same thing can be said about happiness. And when it is overwhelming, when it's too much for you, it's never a good thing, either, no matter what it is, right? So, because you can get in trouble or hurt yourself or whatever the case may be, you need to calm down. So, it's not that people choose to be sadness. I think that it's just so overwhelming that sadness, although you choose to be happy and you do things to make you happy, it's also my thought that if you can't wait for the happiness, good things will happen to you. One way or the other, good things happen to people. That's just the way life works. But if you can't wait for it, you have to create it. You have to make yourself happy by doing something that makes you happy every single day, all the time. So, and then even then, when you're doing that for yourself, a lot of people can be consumed by this big black cloud of sadness, and it can just cover and hide everything inside of you that is good and joyful, filled with joy. And it's the reason why people say, so you have this sadness covering your happiness, but it's the reason why people will, there's this saying, people say it, don't lie and think that you've never said this. Like, people are, they want to be sad. That person wants to be mad right now, or that person likes being sad because they get a lot of attention. So there's all these things that we say about people who, are very emotional. But it's just not the case. I think that you have a lot of control over your happiness. Like you'll watch something that makes you laugh, and that's a small form of happiness. It can make you really, really joyful if you really, really enjoy it. It's your favorite person on TV or whatever. Or it could just be momentary. And then you get sad again, right? But, okay, so you just, oops, hold on. Sorry. I suffer from something inside of my face that likes to move around. I had to pause the video. It's bothering me. Oh my God. But, so yeah, we say a lot of things about people and we talk a lot of shit, and that's just the way the world is. Everybody does it. And even people who have become depressed do it. And it's part of what brings on depression is that they can't fight their own battles with that. But anyway, my point is that you can cover your sadness. It can be totally hidden, although you are happy inside. It's like you're not choosing to be sad, although you have total control of being happy. You can have that within you. And people will say, oh, you're not happy for that person. Why are you acting like this? Because we're trying to have a good time. Like, what is your problem? And it's like, it's not really that I'm not trying to have a good time or that you're not having a good time. Maybe inside you kind of are, but you're just going through some stuff, you know, and it's upsetting you. But it doesn't mean you don't want to really be there, or what most people, if they don't want to be there, they'll just leave, right? So I think that's the point when people are expressing, hey, you know, I need help with this. There's something going on with me and I need a little bit of, and you know what? Here's the other thing. Who cares if somebody needs attention? Everybody needs attention. Everybody wants attention since we're children. That's what we do. It's human nature. Everybody wants to be famous. So give them some freaking attention. Like, pay attention to these people. They're telling you, hey, what about me? And it's not gonna take a lot out of you just to be like, you're cool too, and tell them why and hang out with them a little bit, right? So anyway, I just made a little comment on it and I realized I didn't say enough. It kind of sounded like I said, you know, like people are choosing to be sad because they're not choosing to be happy. It's not the case, and that's not what I meant. What I meant by that statement was that you can be overwhelmed with sadness and still experience a mixed emotion, be happy at the same time with certain things in your life, but it's and you have control of that. You're keeping that with you desperately. However, there is something that can that you struggle with, that you struggle fighting with, which is an overwhelming sense of sadness, something that makes you really upset or even just mad. And I think that for me, for a lot of people, that mixed emotion, those two things, having those two things at the same time can drive you crazy. And for me, that's what happened. I was like ecstatic about the things that I do and can do and who I deal with on a daily basis and the experiences that I've had in my life. But I was really, really upset that I couldn't get very far myself. It's like, suppose you're married to a superstar, right? But nobody wants to know who you are. It's like you keep trying to go out there and do stuff, but people just don't like you as much as they like your husband or your wife or whatever. That would be heart-wrenching, right? Or say you're the child of a superstar. That kind of thing was happening to me. I'm not a child of a superstar. I'm not dating a superstar, but I've had experiences with them. I do know a few people who are in the business have had quite a bit amount of success. I just haven't gotten anywhere myself. And my problem was always my shyness, and my shyness kind of turned into this bitter sadness and anger, and then it turned into anger, and I was so happy to like be in this world, and that mixture of emotions drove me nuts. So I went crazy for a long time. I was really crazy over it, and I just learned. I went to therapy, so that's key. Therapy, not the therapy, the one-on-one therapy was kind of helpful. Sometimes they say things to you that you can use. Mostly what was helpful to me was the group therapy. So I went to group therapy, and there were a lot of videos that they showed that were really important, and they discussed a lot of issues of mental health. Even from people who were dealing with it themselves. And so those were really helpful. And then they handed out a lot of pamphlets, and we had a lot of discussions about coping skills. And the more coping skills that you are able to develop and build upon, the easier it is to get through. So I got to a point where I felt like the classes were just repeating themselves, and I didn't need any more. I had all of my coping skills. I had all the pamphlets, the same papers, and I was like, okay, I think I'm done with this. I think I can do this now on my own. And so those are really important. I do continue to go to therapy and see doctors for my issues, but for my medications and stuff. So I still do that just for the upkeep and maintenance of my mental state. And it's all good. I have actually decreased my medication. So, I mean, if you look, I do leave my videos up from when I was really crazy. I leave those up so that people can see what it does to you. Like, I thought I was sane at the time. I thought I was really doing well, but I was not. When I watched them, it was clear that there was still some stuff I was dealing with, but I was trying to explain myself so well, and I will always continue to do that. I think part of the trouble of having mental health issues is the problem is that it's very hard to express yourself and really help people understand what's going on with you, because a lot of the things, especially with schizophrenia, it's hard to explain to people in a way that they will understand that makes any sense, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even make sense to you sometimes, but you're saying it because that's what happened. You know, it's like talking to somebody about, it's like a scientist talking to a child about astronauts and using all those terms and this big language and the math and everything, and they're like, what? So I'm not saying really smart, although that is what they point out. One of the pamphlets, I will say, that they passed out was, and I wish I had it, I don't know where it is. I don't want to go grab it, but it's a paper that basically says people with mental health issues, mainly schizophrenia, have an overactive brain. So it's not just their emotions, it's their mind. Okay, not only, unless you didn't develop, like I didn't get it until I was over 30 already, and I don't want to tell you my age, but I was over 30 when it happened to me. I started getting symptoms, and I led a pretty normal life. I had worked and everything. I went to school. I was normal. So I know what that's like already. But a lot of people experience this as kids or teenager, and they don't know anything else, right? So basically what it said is that the brain is overactive. And if you start experiencing these things before you're like 28, I think that's when the brain stops growing and developing into its full maturity. I think the age is 28. If it happens to before then, you will then never fully grow up. I don't know really how to say that, use any like real technical terms, but basically your brain won't be fully developed into its full matureness. So you'll have issues like dealing with grown-up situations, and that's what happened. That's why you see that kind of strangeness in people with schizophrenia, because a lot of times they've experienced it before they were fully developed. And thank God that didn't happen to me. I was fully developed. However, my brain is very active sometimes, overly active, and I can tell when it's happening to me. And what that does to us is make us very tired. So you will probably think to yourself, people are just either yelling in the streets or they're really lazy and they're sleeping all the time on my bed. This family member of mine just always sleeping. They can't get out of bed. They're so sedated with their medications. A lot of times it's not even the medication. It's just the overactivity in their brain. They're doing so much within themselves and their mind. I think a lot of times what we're really trying to do is cure it. We're all trying to cure it, make it better. And sometimes we get so upset that we just make it worse and we can't stop. So it drives us nuts just dealing with our own shit, basically. But that's what happened to me. I'm really just only speaking about myself because I know that from going to the groups, I wanted to know. I went to groups because I was like, okay, I didn't want to go because part of my experience was that I was dealing with people in my mind that I was in close encounters with, that I was close to, that I knew. And I didn't want to know people that were going through worse things than me. I didn't want to deal with that. Like, that was really scary to me. Although there are a few people with mental health issues in my family, they're pretty quiet and they don't really interact that much. So I became, as it went on and on and on, and I was not getting that much better just on my own, trying to like self-treat. And by that, I mean like in my mind, trying to cure my own mind by doing great things inside of my mind, trying to be smarter. I even went back to school. I went back to school before I started going to groups. I went back to school because I thought I have to be smarter. I have to be able to beat my mind. Whatever I was previously is doing this to me. So if I educate myself, I'll know more, and for some reason, I thought that would make me stronger mentally. And it does. That's what it does. I did have a lot easier. I did have it a lot easier after I graduated. So I graduated, I actually got my diploma. It took like a year, and because I dropped out when I was a sophomore. No, a junior, but I didn't finish junior year. So I had 2 years to finish, and I finished it in a year, and I graduated, and I was going through so much in school. It was really, really hard. I think I was finishing 1 or 2 units a week. And I don't remember how many I had to finish, but 1 or 2 a week, and everybody else was surpassing me. They were doing like 5 or 6 in a week, and they were graduating in like 6 weeks. And I just stuck with it. I was like, I don't care. I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. I don't have a learning disability. It's that I'm interrupted and disrupted by the things in my mind. It's a little bit distracting. So when I'm concentrating on something, like really trying to figure out a math problem or whatever, it's like your mind just wanders into something else, or you get stuck. And I've been tested for all kinds of things. Brain tumors and OCD and learning disabilities and autism, because they're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. You're so normal. Like, you're doing these things that nobody else does. And we're trying to figure out, like, if we're making the right diagnosis, basically. So I was tested for 1,000 different things. Okay, like 4, but I was tested a lot. And they go, no, that's all it is. So my doctors have recently, I don't know why I'm telling you this story. I don't have to tell you this, but my doctors have recently found out that what they think is that the problems that I am experiencing were onset by a depression medication. And I'm like, I've been telling you that for so many years, that this medication that I took back when you called me depressed, and I was not depressed like I was trying to tell you. So I don't know that I want to tell you really what I told my doctors to make them medicate me. I think I've done that in previous videos, but whatever. So basically what I went in to tell them was that I was not hearing things. And I was basically saying, okay, I'll tell you. I don't have telepathy anymore. I can't hear things. I'm not getting through. This is what I told my doctor. I'm not getting through anymore. Is that normal, or is there something blocking me? Like, am I blocked out? And what I was trying to find out, which is really crazy, this is the crazy part, is that I thought I was being blacklisted. And for so many reasons, I really believed that that could be true. And it may or may not be. I mean, I don't know until I have actually tried to get into the business. And although I am very, very creative, prolifically creative, I have never really tried that hard to like get an agent or contact celebrities. I follow people on Instagram, and I say things, I comment on the Instagrams and the Facebooks, and I have gotten copyrights to some of my work, but I don't know, I'm not like, I have been an extra in a movie. I haven't really tried really, really hard to like get in. That, I don't know, I want to, but it's just hard. It's just really hard for me. So anyway, that's a different story as well. So it was crazy that I was saying that, like, I can't connect to people's minds, and they were asking me, you think you can read minds? No, I'm not trying to read your mind. I'm not that invasive. I just, want to get through so I can connect, so I can do business, with people. That's what I thought the world was like. And it may or may not be. I mean, I really don't. They're telling me that if that's what's happening, you're insane. So they try to make you feel like what you're saying is unbelievable, untrue, mythological, unreal, and you're insane. So my doctor, instead of immediately sending me into the hospital, she gave me depression medications. And I was like, but I'm not depressed. I have not said anything about anything. I knew about depression. My sister is a counselor. She went to school for psychology and other things. And I've studied it a little bit myself. And although I should be really sad and more upset about what's going on with me, I'm not like drowning in my sadness and like trying to kill myself, right? So she gave me depression medications. Like, I don't want to take these. And my mom was telling me, you have to take them because the doctor said. I took those medications for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I swear to God, everything that seemed like it was far away. I mean, it's like she was saying, you can't hear things and you want to? We can do this for you. It's like it was on purpose. Suddenly I was hearing things I didn't want to. I was seeing things, which was not a thing before. I was seeing things very clearly, and they were coming, like they were too close to me, and I couldn't, I couldn't get rid of it. It's not, when you imagine things in your mind, you can sort of escape the visuals. You can pass them over, push them away, make them disappear. Normal minds have those abilities, right? On this medication, so depression medications and antipsychotics are antidepressants and antipsychotics. I went to a class for it before I took the medication a couple years prior because my mom thought I was depressed because I was tired all of the time. And I still am. I'm tired. I experience fatigue for some reason. And now they're tying that to my schizophrenia. I go, well, if it's the medications that onset it, then how are you telling me that I've always had it if I didn't have symptoms before? And all I'm telling you is that I'm really tired. Maybe it's a symptom of something else, which is why they started testing me for 1,000 different things, brain tumor especially. I found out recently that I had a bacterial infection, probably had it for like 3 to 5 years, and nobody could figure out why I was experiencing weird skin symptoms. They thought it was the medications, but it's not a symptom of the medications. I had a bacterial infection in my nose, and it was affecting my eyesight, and I lost my sense of smell, and it probably had something to do with what was going on in my brain. So there's a lot of stuff that was going on, and I think that it was directly related to having a cat. I do this with my cat a lot, and I rubbed my nose after petting my cat, and he had a bacterial infection himself that we could not figure out what kind of bacteria because it's going to cost me $2,000. So basically I got sick from my cat and I didn't know it, and they didn't find out until he just died a month ago. So a month ago is when we found out that I had an infection, and now I'm cured. So after that, I was feeling really well mentally, and my doctor decided to let me decrease my dosage, right? But so I got a little off track there. going back to the story, the depression medication made me start seeing things, but symptoms of schizophrenia are not the same thing as previously what I was aware of as telepathy. We don't know if that really exists. Nobody talks about it, right? I mean, think about it. Nobody talks about that stuff. The only person I've ever heard talk about that in on TV or anything was Prince, and they don't show that video anymore. I looked for it everywhere. They don't show that video anymore because he changed his beliefs and he changed his whole persona and everything. So it's like, it's not something they want people to see. But previously, what I knew as telepathy is not the same thing as the symptoms that I was experiencing as schizophrenia that was onset by the depression medication. So basically what happens is that you shit on yourself so much that you can't get away from it. And basically, and the medications, I went to a class for medication when I was like 28 because my mom thought I was depressed. She said, just go to the class, see if it's something that's right for you. I was like, it's not, but I'll go. Just to learn, because I'm always down for learning new stuff. But I don't want to go to college. I don't want to be in school every day. I don't know. It's a whole different thing. I learn what I want to learn when I want to learn it. So I go to this class, and she said a lot of creative people, which I am, do not like taking antidepressants and antipsychotics for long periods of time because it blocks their creativity. It blocks them from being able to use their mind. It makes them too tired to do it. There's all different things. So she was explaining the chemicals, the chemical imbalance, the serotonin, and what it does to control those things in your mind, in your brain. Well, actually, that a lot of creative people find it really hard to work against, especially like actors when they have to access their emotions. They feel like it's dulling it. And because they're mood stabilizers, and you're trying to access a mood and use that emotion to do your job, and you literally can't do it as well because it's like you're fighting, you're pushing at this door that just wants to shut everything down. So yeah, she was explaining that to me, and it's like, well, I'd tell you this, but you're just telling me what you already know. I don't want to take them, and I have no reason to. Everybody said I was depressed because I was tired. I was tired of life. Like, I wasn't working, and I didn't have any hobbies, but I was tired. I'll tell you I was tired. Okay, and I've done videos on this before. Diet and exercise for your mental health is key to everything with mental health. Diet and exercise. Well, for a good 5 years of my life, I stopped running. I stopped dancing. I was eating one hamburger and a grapefruit a day. Like, that was my diet. A McDonald's hamburger and a grapefruit for breakfast. That's not healthy. That's why I was tired. And it's like, nobody cared to look at my diet or my exercise plan. The way they treat mental health issues today, it's only been about 14 years since then. Because I don't really remember how old I was. I may have been 24. I don't remember when I went to that class. But it's so much more in depth now than it used to be. And in those group classes, they were talking about exercise. They even had a day where the group could go to exercise in the clinic. They would gather in the group and they would do exercises. I mean, that's how important they thought it was. But when they were trying to diagnose me with depression, nobody asked me, how are you eating? How are you sleeping? What are you doing for exercise? And now when you fill out that paper, it's all in the paper. They ask you. But when you go to the doctor, right, they hand you a paper, and there's a series of questions. The questions are usually, has your diet changed? Has your sleep changed? How often do you work out? So they didn't used to do that when I went to the doctor before. Actually, for a while, I didn't have insurance, but when I did have insurance, I didn't have to fill, like, those, I don't remember those questions. Maybe wrong, but I don't remember having to fill out those questions, or maybe I was just ignoring it and just answering them and not thinking about it, because I didn't think about it until after I had the mental health issues. Like, oh, they're asking me all these questions for. But anyway, so nobody was concerned about my diet and exercise. They just wanted to diagnose me and medicate me and medicate me and medicate me. And I was pushing and pushing and pushing away for a long, long time. It's like, no, I am not depressed. I'm just tired, okay? And now people would do the same thing to me when I go to the doctor and I fill out my paper. I tell them I'm really tired and my sleep is disrupted and this and that, whatever. And I go into my doctor and I tell her immediately, look, I exercise 6 days a week. If I'm tired by 1 o'clock and I need an hour nap, like, that is why. And possibly I'm not getting enough protein because protein powders are expensive, and right now you can't find the right amount of food and stuff, right? So there's all these things that play into my tiredness. But it's also a possibility there's something else wrong, something else in my body that's going on, and we haven't found it yet. So they leave it open, and they're no longer just trying to diagnose me. They realize I'm getting better, and they're treating me a lot differently. But throughout this whole ordeal, going back to the original statement, and the reason why I made this video is that I choose to do things regardless of what's going on in my life or the labels that people put on me. Depressed, schizophrenic, crazy, mentally, whatever. Regardless, I do things that make me happy. And if I sense that somebody is trying to do the opposite, I do my best to shut it down. And if I can't get rid of that person for whatever reasons, they're too involved in the things that do make me happy, for instance, I have better coping skills to deal with that now. And nothing will stop me from dancing. I'll only quit dancing if I don't have time, if I literally don't have time for it anymore. But that's part of my exercise regimen, and I like to do it. It's brought me a lot of joy. So I would advise you to do the same thing. You have to create your own happiness and build really good coping skills to deal with things that will try and get in the way of you and your happiness. Because sadness can be overwhelming, and if you need anger management, go get it. Don't shy away from it. Don't ignore your emotions, because eventually If you ignore them too long, they're going to put you on medications that will dull them. And I'd much rather have dealt with my emotions before I took anything that kept me from having them when I wanted to. So, yeah, that's the lesson for today. It's a really long talk. And I wish that I had somebody on here to do this discussion with me. This is not really like a podcast. This is me just telling you my experience. The good and the bad. And I just want to say I do agree with a lot of the Buddhist a lot of Buddhism and Taoism. Those have really helped me a lot in my life. But I'm not really a very religious person. I think that part of what's keeping me sane, and this is different for everybody. Okay, don't look down at me, call me stuck up, and tell me I'm full of myself, okay? Because number one, I already know that. But number two, there's nothing wrong with that. And lastly, do not ever try to take the way somebody's dealing with their own emotions away from them, because that will only make their life worse. And if they have any involvement in your life, it's going to make your life worse. So everybody deals things in their own way, right? I do just believe in myself. I probably shouldn't even tell you that. But that's my biggest belief, is to believe in myself and take care of myself by bringing people into my life who I also believe in. And that is the only thing that I do religiously, is continuously tell myself how awesome I am. So if you're not in the mirror actually, I don't look in the mirror while I do this, but if you're not in the mirror, giving yourself sweet talk and filling yourself with what do you call them? Affirmations, positive affirmations, then there's something wrong already. No, you're fine. I believe everybody can be happy. And I believe that everybody wants to be. And I believe that they probably have some of that happiness with them. But the single most problem in these issues in mental health is that sadness and anger. I wouldn't say they're stronger, but they can cover it up, make it seem like happiness is non-existent, and it's just not true. So it's a battle, it's a fight, and everybody is at war. Believe it, there's nobody on the planet that isn't fighting those things on a daily basis. Some of us are better at it than others. That is all. So if you watch people and try to take note of your favorite people that are inspirational to you, you will figure out the ways in which they deal with these same types of issues, and something hopefully will click in your mind about how you might have something in common and be able to add that into your own life. That's what I do. I only follow people who are positive and inspirational. I don't waste my time with negativity, although I want to be honest, okay? I can be really negative. Most of the time I'm joking, when I'm really, really negative. Most of the time I'm just joking. It's funny, but I realize that sometimes I'm dealing with people who don't understand my sense of humor. And that's when they tell you that you have no filter and you need to be careful about the things that you say, blah, 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 whatever. So, yeah. Anyway, that's what I believe in. That's what I think. That's what I think. And I don't have a problem with what you think in the way that you think, so you shouldn't have a problem with what I think in the way that I think. You got it? If we're going to be friends, we have to know and acknowledge that we don't think the same and that sometimes we will have difference of opinion, and that is okay. Okay? Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and press that subscribe button so you can see more of my beautiful videos. Okay, I'm just kidding. Bye.